Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Feel It to Heal It podcast or Morning Tea Live, wherever you are. All right, so today we are going to be talking about dysregulation versus feeling. So last night I was in session with a client and she was like, I always feel my feelings and I'm so good at feeling my feelings and I've always been someone to feel my feelings. And yet she was experiencing a lot of emotion dysregulation. And I said, I used to be you. I would think and pride myself on how I was feeling my feelings all the livelong day, only to realize that I wasn't actually feeling them. Like I may have been feeling them, but it was more so that they were taking over. So what is the difference between dysregulation and feeling? Feeling is when we have an emotion, which is energy in motion. I feel like my feelings too much. Exactly. That's exactly what she said. She's like, I think I feel my feelings too much. No such thing when you're actually feeling your feelings. So let's break it down. So when you have a sensation in your body, so let's use sadness as an example. So remember, any emotion is energy in motion. It's a sensation that shows up in your physical body. It's not a thought. That's different. It's not a rumination. It's not a it's a sensation. So a sensation of sadness comes up in your body, it shows up in your heart space, and you feel a sensation of heaviness. So we call it sadness, right? So we're just giving names and labels to these things, but all it is a feeling. It's a sensation. So it's sadness. So when we feel sad, that emotion in our nervous system then creates thoughts in our mindset, and then we call it mindset work. But mindset is not actually real. It's only real as a byproduct of your emotions. So I feel sadness, so then I have sadness-based thoughts. Oh, I'm so lonely. Oh, my life sucks. Oh, I feel sad. This person didn't invite me to the party. Whatever the sadness-based thoughts are. Now, what happens with so feeling would be breathing, noticing the thoughts, breathing into that sensation, staying with that sensation, breathing with it, allowing yourself to feel it, and then noticing where it moves in your body. And eventually, with enough feeling and paying attention to it, it's going to release out of your body. And you're not going to feel that anymore. Your heart's going to start to feel a little bit lighter. So that's actually feeling the emotion. Dysregulation is I have this sadness come up and I immediately get stuck in the stories in my head. And I'm trying to figure out, how can I not feel the sadness? Your nervous system is trying to avoid the sadness by putting on the TV, reaching for the phone, putting on the movie, reaching for the external saving from your partner or your friend, reaching for the bag of chips and just like crying. I'll never forget in college when this boy broke my heart and I went to my friends and immediately I just took a shot of tequila and I cried in the tequila shot. And then I drank the tequila. I was literally taking shots of my tears. That was dysregulation. Now, what does dysregulation even mean? All it means is a lack of safety in the body. I don't feel safe to feel this sadness. I don't feel safe to feel this fear. I don't feel safe to feel this shame. I don't feel safe to feel this pain. Dysregulation just means that the emotion feels so strong that it takes over and your nervous system does everything it can to avoid it. So imagine what's a good example? You're playing racquetball and the person's hitting the ball, but you're constantly running from the ball. And so it just feels like the ball is hitting you in every moment instead of just taking the damn racket and swinging it, right? So instead of getting hit by all these feelings, we have to take our power back and get into our leadership. And we're not going to swing it away, but we're going to allow it to swing through us. So dysregulation comes from childhood where we were taught that it's not safe, acceptable, normal to feel that feeling. And so what did you see your parents do? You saw them drink for self-medication, for self-numbing. You saw them invalidate. Oh, why are you crying? Don't be such a baby. Don't be a pussy. Don't be blah, 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 blah. Right? You saw them run away from it, overworking, staying busy, constantly avoiding themselves. You, little you, grew up seeing this. So what's a little child to do other than to learn the same thing? So you learn to avoid your emotions, to numb your emotions, to distract from your emotions, to avoid them at all costs because your nervous system registers it as a threat. It says if you feel this emotion, you are going to be judged, you're going to be criticized, you're going to be invalidated, you're not going to be seen, heard, or understood. And that can feel threatening for your survival mode. Why? Because we are relational creatures. So if we're not feeling like our feelings are heard, accepted, understood, we feel like we're going to be abandoned. We feel like we're going to be ostracized. We feel like we're going to be kicked out of the club, the group, the family, right? And so, hi, Liz, welcome. So when we've learned these things, it's so second nature to experience dysregulation. Now, dysregulation shows up first in the nervous system, but then it creates mental dysregulation. Mental dysregulation just means that you're having all of these thoughts that are trying to avoid the emotion. So last night in my session, we were talking about how when you experience dysregulation, you're trying to figure it out. So I'm going to use a personal example, which I used in my session last night. 2 days ago, I got back my book edits from my book editor. And I felt all the feelings. I was like, I'm excited. I'm terrified. What are these edits going to say? What are they going to look like? And I was like, right. And so I just took a breath and I breathed. And I noticed some dysregulation start coming up because I was having fear and my body was not just feeling safe to be with that fear. And so I started ruminating about it was like trying to figure out something to ease the fear, as if something we could figure out in our minds could take away an emotion. No, the only thing that takes away an emotion is to feel it and to allow it to move through your body. So I was having these thoughts, like these figuring out thoughts of like, okay, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to change this. But then how is the book going to get to this point? And how am I going to convey this? And how am I going to communicate this the way that I want to communicate it? And I was trying to figure it out, figure it out, figure it out. There was nothing to figure out. My body was registering these edits as like a threat of like, oh my God, something's wrong. I need to fix it. And so my brain was going into fix it mode. There was nothing to fix. There was nothing wrong. And my book editor reminded me, she was like, the first round of edits are always the hardest because you're transforming as a writer, you're transforming as a person. And so it's the book is not, the book is here and you want it to be here. And so in order to get it here, you have to go through those harsh edits, right? And that's part of the process. And so here I was noticing that my brain was like trying to figure it out. Well, what can I do? And it's like, Rachel, this isn't a bad thing. This is literally what I told myself. Rachel, this isn't a bad thing. This is a good thing. You now have information. You now have a path forward. You now have guidance as to how to make this book into the form that you want it to be in order to birth it and have it be the most transformational, powerful, potent, effective experience for the reader. So I said, this is a good thing. These edits aren't a bad thing. It's a good thing. But the reason why my body was registering them as a bad thing was because it brought up old wounds of feeling shame around how some of my dysregulated energy came through in the book. And I had to look at that and I had someone mirroring that back for me. It was this sadness that came up of, I know myself and I know my authentic self is a very grounded, regulated person. And yet because of my trauma and my attachment wounding, I have suffered immensely from emotion dysregulation my entire life until I found this work and actually healed my nervous system. And so there was all of this historical shame and sadness and fear that came up. And I recognized that that was little me. That was just this younger part of me that felt all these things and didn't have space or safety to feel them. And it was my current adult self where I just am processing these historical things coming up. So what did I do? I noticed I was stuck in my head. I took that as a sign that I was feeling dysregulated because again, when we feel safe to just be with our emotions, we're not thinking about our emotions. We're not obsessing about our emotions. We're just feeling the emotions. We're allowing ourselves to be with the emotions. So I got into my body and I just breathed And I allowed myself to feel the sensations of the shame, the fear, the sadness. I got still. I would notice when my brain would go back into spinny mode, and then I would refocus my breath into the sensation. And then I did some chanting, I did some meditation, and then I connected to my grounded, authentic self because I allowed a lot of that emotion to move through my body. And then I came back to, how do I want to relate to this? And it was from this place of, I got this. I believe in myself. And this is a process of building self-belief. None of us are born just having all the self-belief in the world. It's a process. And to build that self-trust, that self-belief, that internal safety, that safety around feeling your feelings, you first have to start with being honest about what is. So what is in this moment was, oh, I was feeling sadness. I was feeling not good enough. I was feeling scared. I was feeling all of these things. We first have to acknowledge that. We can't bypass that. I was talking about this with a different client yesterday where she was like, I connect to this higher perspective, but then I end up bypassing how I'm actually feeling. And I said, exactly. I've done the same thing many times. So it's this practice of allowing those two things to coexist. I can feel how I feel, but I can also connect to, how do I want to relate to this feeling? And our highest selves, our most authentic, grounded selves, understand the human experience. The human experience is that we're going to have emotions. We can't bypass those emotions. So my curiosity for you listening is, where are you making yourself wrong for your emotions? Where does that come from? Where did you learn that it was wrong to have emotions? How do you want to relate to those emotions? So again, when you're stuck in your head, that's a sign that you are not feeling safe to feel your feelings, because your mind is trying to keep you up here to avoid you being in here, because that's where the emotions are felt. And how can you relate differently? It's all about relating differently. It's about, how can I go from up here to bringing it back in here? Oh, I'm going back in here again. That's a protector. Come back down here. It's a continual redirection, because when you actually can feel that and allow that to move through, and you might feel like you're dying because it feels fucking terrifying when you're not used to feeling safe around feeling your feelings, you have to breathe through that and show your body that you're not dying. I promise you, you're not dying. I promise you, you're safe to feel it, but you have to build that internal safety. How do you build that? By practicing showing your body in every moment, this is dysregulation, this is calm. And when you actually notice when that emotion moves through, you will notice how your mind, completely different thoughts live there. So when you're in that dysregulated state of, I'm feeling so scared and overcome with fear. So yes, technically you're feeling fear, but you're not feeling it. You're staying stuck in it. You're letting it take over. Your thoughts are going to be fear-based. When you actually tend to that fear root emotion and you allow it to move through your body and you allow it to soften, whether that's through tears, through breath, through chanting, through anything that helps move it through, your thoughts are not going to be the same. Like my thoughts from point A 2 nights ago to point B, completely different. I went from like, oh my God, this is scary, I don't know how I'm going to do this, to like, oh my God, this is so exciting, I see a path forward. And it was the same thing with my client last night. She was like, oh my God, this whole time I thought that I feel my feelings too much. It's not that I feel my feelings too much. It's that I'm letting my feelings take over. That's the difference. Do you guys get that? When your feelings take over, where you don't feel safe to be with them, they completely take over the driver's seat of your life. They control your thoughts, your behaviors, your words, your actions, how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself. When they take over, that is dysregulation, because you don't feel safe to be the leader with them. You don't feel safe to just be with them. So then they take over. That's dysregulation. Regulation and safety around your emotions are not letting them drive your behavior. Oh, I'm feeling scared, so I'm just going to call that ex-boyfriend I know I shouldn't talk to. No, that is you letting them take over. Oh, I'm feeling so sad, I'm just going to fucking eat a giant pint of ice cream and then regret it 5 minutes later. Nope, that's dysregulation. That is your feelings taking over. That's not feeling them too much. That's allowing them to take over too much. Feeling them is pausing, breathing, getting into your body, getting out of your head, allowing them to move through. Then you go back, you move forward, or not go back. You You go back to what you were doing. You move forward with your day. You don't get stuck in it. You keep moving. You keep moving. Then you get still and feel, and then you move forward. And then you get still and feel, and then you move forward. So often we get stuck in the stillness or we avoid the stillness. It's like either extreme. It's like we either get stuck in the stillness where we're feeling it and then we feel it, but then it's like we think we need to like think about it some more. And it's like, no, then you just move forward with your day. Or if you're not getting still at all and you're just like, okay, I'm just moving forward, then you're bypassing your emotions. So that's why feeling your feelings is this beautiful art form. It's really learning, how do I get still every day, every moment? Take 5 deep breaths throughout your day to check in with your heart, to check in with your body, to check in with your inner child, to check in within your nervous system. And then how do I then show myself I'm safe to move forward? Because if you don't move forward and you get stuck in it, that's letting the feelings take over, and that's showing your body we're in danger. This emotion is here. That's survival mode. To get out of survival mode, you have to show your body it's safe to get out of survival mode. How do you show it that it's safe to get out of survival mode? You don't act like you're in survival mode. That's you relating to the feelings as if those feelings are threats. Oh my God, I'm so scared. I'm so, sad, blah, blah, blah. I can't do anything. That is survival mode. That is the survival mode taking over. Hi, Nat. Welcome. So glad you're here. Whereas if you allow space for stillness to feel them, but then you move forward, you're showing your body, I'm safe to go about my day because there's actually no threat. So it's all about how you're relating to the emotion. Am I relating to it from a place? Oh, you're so welcome. Mwah, mwah, mwah. So glad that you're here, and I will talk to you soon. So it's, am I relating to this emotion from a place of this thing is a danger to me, right? Because that's little you, versus adult you is this sadness is not going to kill me. This pain is not going to kill me. I can feel it and then move forward because there's nothing to do. There's nothing to fix. There's nothing to, freak out about. It's just a feeling and we can feel it. So do you guys have any questions? Let me just catch up on the comments. Hi, Cara. Good morning. Lago, so lovely to see you. Virginia. This happened a few days ago. I felt the pain and joy so much. I started feeling chest pain. Well, the thing with that is that it's a question of, is the chest pain, like what's the emotion underneath that, right? So if there's pain, sometimes you will have chest pain because it's painful, right? But then other times it could be that your nervous system is not feeling safe to feel that emotion. And so then you're getting physical symptoms to try and store the emotion or numb the emotion. So anytime my clients like, I have a headache or I have chest pain, you have to stay with that pain. You have to pay attention to the pain because that's your body trying to get your attention. As Gabor Mate says, you have to pay attention to the tension. So you put your hand over that part of the body, you take some deep breaths with it and you allow it to soften because that shows your body that you're safe to be with that pain. Whereas if you got that chest pain and you were like, oh my God, I'm dying. I have chest pain. I need to call 911. I need to take an Advil. I need to get an IV. I need blah, 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 blah. That's you relating through survival mode. Chest pain is literally, it could literally just be there's fear coming up. There's sadness coming up. There's historical pain from childhood coming up that needs tending to. And so medicating it or putting a Band-Aid over it or freaking out about it is going to make it worse. Think about when you were a kid and you had an emotion and your parent made it bigger than it needed to be. Like you just needed a safe grounded nervous system to be with you in the emotion, the attunement, in tune with the emotion. And instead your mom was like, oh my God, she's crying. What do I do? And like freaking out about it. That is how you relate to your symptoms. If you relate to your symptoms of like, oh my God, what do I do? I'm freaking out. That's little you feeling like, oh my God, once again, we're re-traumatized from childhood because I'm relating to myself the same way my parents related to me. We have to give ourselves a reparative experience. We have to give ourselves a new experience. So rather than freaking out at your emotions or your symptoms, lean in, get in tune with them. What are they communicating to you? Like every day I've been communicating with my eye because I have some episcleritis for the past 2 months. So I've just been hands on eye, breathing, eye, what are you needing? What are you communicating? Like there's always a deeper emotional root to everything. And you can come at me with the, well, what if I'm just dehydrated? Yeah, you could be dehydrated, but why are you dehydrated? Because you're running around in survival mode, because you're not taking care of yourself, because your inner child's taking over. That's an emotional root. Oh, well, I'm just not sleeping well. Why? Oh, because I'm having nightmares. Why? Because you have unprocessed trauma and pain in your body. Physical symptoms are a manifestation of an emotional root. There's so much research on this. So you can fight me all you want on it. But I'm telling you, if you stop running to the Band-Aids and you get still with your symptoms, like just ask my clients, they have headaches and then they tend to it and they get to the emotional root of where that stored pain was showing up in their head. Headaches are always nervous system. And then they allow that headache to alleviate and they're like, oh my God, I just healed my headache without ibuprofen. And they become their own self-healer. And it's like, oh, it's just the most powerful, powerful thing in the world. It's just my favorite thing, teaching you how to become your own self-healer. This is so powerful. Today's live is awesome. What are your thoughts on feeling nervousness? Hi, Alexandra. Cara, I'm a testimony. You are. Cara's moving through some serious physical pain right now. And we are getting to the emotional root. And then we are relating differently to it. And then we are healing it. And it's creme de la creme. So good. Okay, what are your thoughts on feeling nervousness? So nervousness is not an emotion, it's a state of being, right? So there are 5 primary emotions: fear, sadness, shame, anger, and joy. So every time we say, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling on edge, I'm feeling uneasy, whatever that is, that's more of like a overwhelmed, right? That's more of like a state of being. And then we want to get to the root emotion. So the root emotion of nervousness, I'm feeling nervous, would be fear. So then you want to ask yourself, what am I feeling fear about? So let's say you're going to a job interview. I feel nervous. Okay. I'm feeling fear about how this interview will go, right? If I don't get this job, I'm making it mean that I'm a failure. How familiar is it for you to feel like a failure if you don't get the thing that you want to get, right? So we trace it back, we thread it apart, we peel it back, peel back the layers of the onion, because we are an onion in human form. Cute little onions. So you want to just get curious around what the actual fear is and then where that's showing up. So what are you getting, where are you experiencing nervousness? Is it at work? Is it in relationship? Is it just being alone? Is it going to the grocery store? I have a lot of clients that struggle with going to the grocery store. So just looking at where that shows up for you and then what the root emotion is, and then what are you actually scared of? How familiar is that fear? And if a child were feeling that fear, let's say a child's feeling scared of going to the grocery store alone, what are they scared of? Whatever it is, right? Like being in public or being hurt or whatever, what would they need to feel safe? And then you have to tend to that, meet that emotional need, and then feel the fear and do it anyway to show your little you and your body that you're safe. So, all right, I think I covered all of the comments and questions. Do you guys have any other questions, thoughts, need any clarification on anything before we wrap up for today? So to kind of summarize, when you get stuck in your head, that is dysregulation. When you're relating to the emotion through a behavior that is only making the emotion worse, that is dysregulation. Regulation and internal safety around feeling your feelings is getting still, tracking the sensation, tending to the younger part. What would they need? Maybe visualize holding her or giving her validation or taking care of her, whatever that looks like. Watch the emotion go through, allow it to move through, and then you can use nervous system practices like chanting, singing, humming. My favorite one recently has been buzzing. Bzz, tones your vagus nerve. Anything that activates your vagus nerve is going to help bring you back into that parasympathetic state, and you allow it to move through. Now, sometimes emotions take time to move through. Like the other night, I felt that fear move through pretty quickly. And the more you practice it, the more that you can actually move through it quickly. There are other times, like in 2024, where I had fear last for months because I was going through a massive, massive death portal. and shedding and grief and all these things, where it wasn't just a moment of fear that I could move through. It was like I was literally, my nervous system went from like this to like this. And I was literally rewiring so much that fear was my just constant state. Sometimes fear, shame, pain, whatever it is, takes time to move through. And it's just attending to it moment by moment. And I tell you, the day that I felt the fear fully leave my body after an entire 7 months of feeling it to that extreme, I felt like I was on fucking cloud 25,000, not even cloud 9. Like I felt like I was floating. I was so light. And that's the difference. When there's heaviness living in your body, you don't even know how good you could be feeling, because when you move that through and you land on the other side, I literally remember that day. Like, I will never forget this day where the fear had fully left my body. And I literally felt light as a feather. I was crying tears of gratitude. I was walking down the street and I was just like looking at the world, not even through rose-colored glasses, through my authentic self, through not fear. When you view the world through a lens of fear versus a lens of what it actually is, it's like you feel like you're born again. It's like the most magical feeling I could ever describe. And we all have the opportunity to feel this. And that's how I know the difference is anytime I'm stuck with fear and I have to accept, because oftentimes we try and like force it, like, oh, I just have to feel light again. But we can't attach on to feeling light and we can't attach on to feeling heavy. We have to just be with each thing in each moment without attaching onto it or making it wrong or making it bad or making it scary. Acceptance before change always. We have to accept, I'm feeling scared right now. I'm feeling pain right now. I'm feeling shame right now. I'm feeling sadness right now. That is the path to allowing that to move through. But if you're like, oh my God, I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling sad. Ah! You just make it worse and you perpetuate more of what you don't want. So let me just remind you, it is so worth it to feel your feelings. It is so worth it to allow that historical pain to come up, because even though it feels fucking awful and scary, allowing it to move through is literally the best drug you'll ever experience without even taking a drug. Like, people take drugs to feel what I felt that day. But you don't need a drug for it. You just need to feel your feelings. Isn't that so cool? Like, think about all the people who just drink and take drugs just to like numb that. What if you didn't have to numb it? What if you actually felt safe to feel it and then you just got to feel good? Like, oh, guys, so worth it. 10 out of 10 recommend. All right. Do we have any last minute questions, thoughts, feelings? If you guys are needing further support with this, my Black Friday sale just ended, but if you had your eye on something and you just didn't make the sale, DM me and maybe I'll create a little special coupon code for you. But the best way to start really digging into this work is my membership. And Cara can testify to that. Before becoming my one-on-one client, she was in my membership. She did the training, she did the journal prompts, she started integrating, she started building, and that's what led her to being in a place where she could invest in one-on-one. So start with the membership. It's the School of Rachel. It's me teaching you everything that we should have learned in school about how to rewire the nervous system, how to feel our feelings, how to build internal safety in our bodies. And in this month's training for December, we're going to be focusing a lot around ego deaths, around how to relate to your family and stay connected to you during the holiday season, grief around the holiday season. So now would be a perfect time to join. It's only $111 per month, like an amazing deal for 3 live trainings, 1 live Zoom call with me every month, hot seat coaching, Q&A, community grounding, chanting, meditation. You don't have to feel alone on your healing journey. Like, it is the place to be. So I would love to have you in it. DM me with any questions, and thank you for being here. And I love you all so, so much. Mwah! And I will see you on the next live.